and get to the money. I promise nobody would travel like me. I ain't talking about bitches, I'm talking about opposite little nigga, man. I just hit 2 in a week. I just poured up a cup.
Hey guys, my name is Danny James, and today I have a very exciting tutorial lined up for you. I'll be showing you how to do this crazy vintage paper effect. So let's get into it. I have these 2 clips that I'll be transitioning using these effects that I'll be showing you. Ideally, in a real life scenario, you'd have a bit of space over here, and then the other clip would start somewhere around here. Right at the end of the first clip, get a frame hold of that. Right click and add a frame hold. That way we have a still frame of that section. Give it a different color. Right on the next clip, on the first frame, we'll also need a frame hold. So I will duplicate that one. Right click, add a frame hold, cut the excess like this, give it a different color so that you are also able to differentiate. So this frame hold will come right before the clip, and this one will come after the clip. Next, we will export these frames so that you can work with them on Photoshop. So just find this export frame and do that. Frame 1, and then this other one will be our frame 2. We'll close here for now. I'll open Photoshop, create a new file with the same dimensions as whatever you're working with on Premiere. In my case, it's a 1920 by 1080, so double click and create that one. Import the 2 frames that we exported. Once you've imported them, make sure to rasterize each layer. And then we will disable the second frame, start with the first frame, create a selection of the subject. So I'll get my quick selection tool and I will quickly make a selection on feature. Once you've selected that, hit Ctrl J such that the selection will go into a new layer. I will do the same for the second frame. Hit Ctrl J, and now we have layer 1 and layer 2. So these are the ones that we'll be working with. I will rename them once again. So I'll name this frame 2 solo, and then the other one I'll name it frame 1 solo. I'll keep the frame 2 solo right below frame 1 so that you can begin working from the top with frame 1 solo only. We'll need a couple of assets to create the look that we are going for. So just go on Pinterest. Once on Pinterest, you can search old colored newspaper, and then you can be a bit more specific if you need to. But once you've opened one of them, for example, if I open this one, it should be able to suggest similar items to what we are looking for. So I will even save this image. As you go on searching, you'll find more and more items that should more or less go with what you are looking for. Try different things and you should be able to get different results. If this is a lot of work, I will link down below the assets that I've also downloaded into my PC and the ones that I will be using in this tutorial. Drag any of them into my Photoshop, enlarge it like this, and then I will keep it behind my subject. You can also use the old crumpled textured assets for this. So once it's behind him, I will rasterize the layer, put it behind the subject, and then merge these 2 layers. I'm holding shift, clicking on both of them, right click and merge the layers. What you'll do next is very important. Grab your pen tool, and now I'll go around the subject, creating some edges to it so that he kind of has this theme around him. You can go a little bit close to the subject, but just try to make it as imperfect as possible. The more points that you add, I think the better looking it will be, but this will be an effect that comes off in very few seconds, so I wouldn't put too much time in it. I will connect it to the first one. Right click, click on make selection. I will choose a feather radius of 0, hit OK, hit Ctrl Shift I to choose everything but the subject, and then hit delete. Hit Ctrl D so that we'll remove those matching ants, and now we have something that looks like this. I will duplicate this a few times, but before I do that, we will need to move it around and rotate it. For now, we can see some information from the newspaper that we used to link with this, and this could be an issue further forward. So what I recommend doing is exporting this as a PNG and then bringing it back to Photoshop. Quickly export it, import that file back into Photoshop. It should come into the same place, and then I will delete the other one. You'll be required to rasterize the layer first before you can do anything. Hit Ctrl J about 7 times until you have this number of copies. I'll disable all the ones that are on top. I'll go to the second one. I will hit Ctrl T and rotate it a little bit. It will all make sense when you go back to Premiere Pro. Go on the other copy, hit Ctrl T. You can probably rotate it in the other perspective. You can also move it around, create some fake movement on it. Re-enable the other one, Ctrl T. You can even move it on the left side like that. Go to the other one, re-enable it, hit Ctrl T. You can rotate it maybe the other side. You can even drop it down, re-enable the other one and do the same thing. So now we have 7 copies of this frame. I'll rename all these layers so that it's very easy to follow through on Premiere Pro. So I'll rename this one 101 and so on. So these are our 7 frames. I will hide all of them, and then we'll need to import a paper layer. You can import a different one. I'll pick this one over here, drag it into Photoshop, enlarge it. I will choose whichever part that I want to use. From here, make sure to rasterize the layer, okay, and then rename it paper. We'll hit Ctrl J 7 times on this paper. Rename all the layers once again so that it's very easy to work with this in Premiere. Okay, we have 7 copies. I'll hide every other layer, start with the first one, which is paper 01. Right on Photoshop, you might not have very many brushes, but I want to show you the ones that you can rely on. Just use the dry media brushes, which are the Kylie's, erasers, and the drawing box. And then I'll just make sure my flow is at 100. I will use a green, yellow and red for this tutorial. I might even use blue. So depending on the colors that you want to use, feel free to do it. So I'll hit B, enlarge my brush tool, and just make some kind of marks on the newspaper. So I could start with something like this line, hide the selection for that paper, go to paper 102, do something else, and then probably make a line over here, change my color to the green one or the one with red, and then I could make some more. You can even wrap it like this, close that off, go into the other one. We can now even change the brush that you're going to use. Let's try the Ultimate Pastel Palooza. Change the color to maybe the one in blue. You could draw something around him, around this. That's good. Switch that off, go to the next one. Maybe do the same but with a blue color. We could probably fill up the screen. Before I even do this one, I will ensure my flow is at 100 so that it's complete. It completely fills my screen. Honestly, I'm just doing anything random that you feel like. I will take the yellow, change the brush. I could probably pick the pencil hard. Okay, I can even try these other ones. I want some splat on these. Pick the red color, make sure the flow is at 100, and just spray some ink on it. Go to the next one, and more or less just have fun with it. So these are last paper. Now I need us to disable this, go back to our frames. So here are our frames. So we'll do the same treatment to these other frames. So I'll skip the frame solo because we need it. We need to use it later on. So go to the frame 101, get a paintbrush. You can draw anything. For now, I'll use the green. Draw an outline around Future, something like this. Okay, I will hide that layer. Go to the next one. You can do something else. You can pick a different brush if you feel the need to. I'll pick the yellow color. Let's just draw something along the eyes. I want a different brush. We can use this one, something like that. Just leave a line, go to the next one. With that done, now these are the frames that we've generated, and most of this work was in Photoshop. When you go to Premiere, everything should be easy. So we have the frame 1 solo, nothing painted on it, frame 101, frame 102, frame 103, 4, 5, and all that. Save this file, hit Ctrl S and name it Vintage Tutorial. hit OK, and then we'll close these up, go back to Premiere. Back here, right click on this space, click import, locate the Photoshop file that you just saved. This is my vintage tutorial. Import as individual layers, select all the layers. You can scroll down, maybe deselect the background. We just import what we need, hit OK, double click to open that, and here are our layers from Photoshop. You can click here so that you can see, and that's why it was important to label them correctly. From our frame hold, make sure it stays on for 3 frames, 1, 2, 3. I'm using my arrow keys. After here, I bring my first frame. So we go from this to the frame hold to the first frame. Make sure it stays on for 3 frames, 1, 2, 3. Bring the next one, which is frame 101. Arrange them in some sort of staircase, them in the same order. If I scroll through, you can see what we were doing. We've been able to have some movement on it, even though it's a still frame. We don't have to necessarily import all the frames that we've created. We've just created them so that we have a variety to use. Now I'll go to the paper, start with the paper 101. Before I import the aesthetic papers, highlight on all of them, right click, add a label, give them a different color so that it's easy to identify them. Now I'll bring in vintage paper 101. So it is right below this one. I'll bring the 102 and finally 7. Right after the last one, you need to import the cutout for the frame 2, which is a selection of the subject for this. So I'll get the frame 2 solo, put it after these 3 frames, okay, and right beneath it we can also place one of the papers that we painted on. So I'll bring in the one with this red. So hold Alt, duplicate, and bring it below this one, such that once it goes from here, it will come into the video itself, and then the video will play. Also note that the frame hold that we added on comes on before the video itself, so it will also stay from 1, 2, 3 frames, and then the video should go on from here. So if I play this back from the top, yeah, that's what we've essentially been able to create. As I said earlier, you can even rearrange these frames. They don't have to follow each other as they are. I can replicate the one on 102, put it on the 4th frame, and probably disable this one, and it should still work fine. There is a lot of room for flexibility on this look. Play around with whatever catches your eye and makes it look good. In conclusion, you can create many variations of this from the same layers that you created on Photoshop. For example, I can change the frame 102 here, disable it, duplicate frame number 5, and it should still work even if it repeats itself. So there is a lot of room for flexibility and experimentation. And yeah, that's it from me today. I hope you did enjoy this one as much as I did prepping it for you. Once again, I will also link down below the aesthetic newspaper materials that we got from Pinterest so that you can also use them in your work. Remember, the easiest way to support this channel is by visiting my website at dannyjames.co for preset packs and LUTs that will make your work easy. My name is Danny James. See you guys on the next video. Peace.